from the crack house to the White House, and I mean literally. Today's guest is Tanja Miles, and the very pit that she once lived in is now her purpose. God has redeemed her life in such a way that now she is out on the forefront, traveling the nation, helping others overcome challenges. You don't want to miss this amazing story. Welcome back to Life on Purpose TV. Today we have Tanja Miles. She has so many titles to her name. She is a busy woman because she is effective in ministry. She is a veteran. She is a community activist. She has many, many passions. And so we're just going to jump in with your family story, your early faith story. You grew up in a really good family, but something happened to you at 7 years old that changed the trajectory of the next several years. So
Yes.
Talk about that.
Well, like you said, I came from a really good family, a caring family, a family who was always told if you had $1 and if someone needed it, you had to give it to them. And so family service is something that, I was raised upon. But I had a great little life. I was this cute little girl with the big forehead, the buck teeth, who loved to entertain people. I knew Al Green before I knew my ABCs. And so, I was this vibrant little girl who wanted to just, be there and make people smile. And something happened to her. I say at 7 years old, she died and nobody grieved her. At 7, I was molested multiple times, and that was the demise of many years of my life just spiraling out of control.
How can parents and kids be more vocal about things like that and be more honest about it to get help earlier?
Well, I'm gonna be real honest. I think, being a pastor in the African American community and in the faith-based community, we kind of don't address it as much as we need to. We tell people maybe, to suck it up or pray about it. And look, I'm all about prayer. Prayer is vital. However, we need to listen to our kids, or if anybody come to us and say, look, I'm having a challenge right now, we ought to be in a position to say, look, I hear you. How can I help you? Because those are the two things that people need to hear. I hear you, and how can I help you?
And if someone would have said that to you, those next few years might have been a little bit different.
Absolutely. I think they would have been real different. My parents just didn't know what to do at the time. No one talked about it. There were very limited resources. And again, that's why I wake up every day to tell people that there is hope. With God, all things are possible, that He has a plan and purpose for their life. However, if you feel yourself stuck, it's okay. I did a thing not too long ago saying therapy ain't scary. And I wish that I would have had that opportunity to talk about those emotions, talk about those feelings, and realize that they did not have to define me. Because for a while they did.
And so you're passionate about suicide prevention because you've been there.
Yes.
2 times.
2 times.
So you felt your life had no value, that you thought you could just be gone and it would be okay. So
I did. I mean, from that one experience, led a lot of behavior issues when I was in elementary school. I got kicked out of elementary school. I first started using drugs at 16. My first time trying to commit suicide was at the age of 13. I ended up in a hospital getting my stomach checked, pumped. The last time I, ended up in a mental hospital was in there for 30 days. I hated the skin I was in. Look, I didn't think I'd live to be past 18. I just didn't like who I was, who I became. I did so much stuff, stealing from my parents, lying to them, the prostitution, the mental illness, the drug abuse that got worse. I said I'd never do crack. Before you know it, I was a straight up crackhead. It's by the grace of God that I don't have AIDS. So I just thought that my life was useless, that I had done so much stuff that not even God could forgive me.
So you go to college and you don't do so well. Your parents finally get a grip on the level of problems, and they're like, okay, we can't fund this anymore. You're going to have to figure out your own way, right? So you're back at, now what do I do?
Exactly, because they did find out. They thought, they were giving me money for tuition, and they were really giving me money for drugs. And for about a year or so, they didn't know that that's what I was doing. I was going up very promiscuous on campus, and they were like, we're done. We're sick of you lying to us and being manipulative, and you know what? You're on your own. So I'm like, okay, I'll fix you. And I joined the military. And so when I told my parents, my mom cried, my dad said some very explicit words. Even though he was a Vietnam vet, I just think that he was like, what are you really doing? But can I tell you, it really changed my life. I love being a soldier. I know people go, what do you mean you love basic training? Well, here's the deal. When I was a little kid, I got screamed at a lot, I must say.
Because your dad?
Right. Yeah, and he tried to train me to be, it was almost like he was training me to be a soldier. But can I tell you, it taught me so much about myself, about teamwork, about character development. And I excelled, immediately being a soldier. And it was some of the best days of my life, and I would have continued to stay in, but I got saved and got married, and my husband was like, no, you're not going overseas, because I'm like, no, I'm going to fight for my country, because I love my country.
So after you got out of the military, you began to see things differently. You'd been saved. You went from prisoner to freedom.
Yes.
How do you do that?
Well, nothing but the grace and mercy of God, for real, because I never forget telling my grandmother, I said, dear, I said, the enemy is trying to take me out. And she said, baby, if you give your life over to God, He has a plan and purpose for your life. I've always seen that on your life. I mean, it's because of her prayers that I lived this long, when the times that guns were put to my head and I OD'd in rooms and nobody would have found me. It was my grandmother's prayers that kept me alive. And I'm grateful to her for that. And when she told me that, I took her at her word, because I had nothing else. And I took her at her word, and I'm telling you, I did rehabilitation, and when I dove in the Word and the Word told me that I could be forgiven, set free, healed, and delivered, I took God at His word, and I told Him, God, if you saved me and if you set me free, I promise to serve you all the days of my life. And that's why I get up every day and I go hard for Him, because I shouldn't have been here, only by His grace.
So how do you work with a family who has a child in addiction? How do you work with someone who feels like their life is going to end in suicide? How do you help those horrible situations?
Well, number one, I always, look at what the cause and effect is. A lot of times there's root cause. I mean, the enemy's not playing. The Bible says he comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And he's using drugs and a whole lot of other things to destroy not only families, but our community and our country. And so that's why I'm so open about sharing my life, because I want people to know that God is no respecter of person. The same God who set me free and delivered me is the same God that can do it in their life. But to also bring them resources and to also let them know, look, there's help. You don't have to do this by yourself. If I can do it, you can do it. And just, connect them with the right resources, pray with them, and to, let them know that with God, all things are possible. And it's just been a blessing and amazing to see, lives transform right before my very eyes. God has used us to do amazing things in our community, in our country, and there's nothing like waking up every day saving lives.
Well, and let's talk about that. When you turned your life over to God, He began opening doors for you.
Yes, He did.
And you went from the crack house to the White House.
Yes!
So talk about that big stage, that big platform. All of a sudden, you're getting called by the President of the United States, you and Darren, your husband. Talk about just seeing God honor your service to Him by using what you'd learned.
The Bible says that your gift will make room for you. And we knew that one day God would use us to, change the world for real. And so we were just serving people, at the Salvation Army. And so what they did the White House did a search across America. They were looking for a faith-based program that was not getting any money. They were looking for someone, because of their faith, had been set free from addiction. And there are thousands of great organizations in our country, but they found us. And so anyway, I got this call from Jim Toohey, who I love. Jim was Mother Teresa's attorney for 12 years, and he's still a great, friend of ours. And he called me up and was asking me all these questions, and I'm just like, for real, what's really going on here? And I just thought we were going to get a certificate saying, you go girl, yay, good job, yeah, good job, buddy. And that was basically it. And so when we got the other call saying that the president wanted me to be his special guest at the State of the Union address, I, bust out laughing, because I'm like, for real? Yeah. And because I had, I dibble into politics a lot, so I know I've watched a lot of State of the Union, so I'm like, yeah. So we end up going to the White House, and they were like in awe with us, and we're just like, we're in awe of y'all. And so I get whisked away, and I go to the Capitol, and the Secret Service says, so go find your seat, sit down, and shut up. I'm like, I could do that. And so I went straight to the back row. And so didn't find my seat, and went a couple other seats, couldn't find. I went, look, I know I'm not supposed to be here. Y'all made a mistake. My name is nowhere on these seats. And he did this, and he said, right here. And I'm like, wait, what? And there I was on the front row with Barbara Bush. The president talked about our program in the State of the Union address. And who knew that this one time would end up being 6 years of working with the White House, now the face of the faith-based initiative, traveling with him, traveling for him, bringing $22.8 million into our state to help people with addiction, and this training faith-based organizations across the country. It was 6 years that truly changed my life, gave me a platform to talk about addiction, to talk about, that God can truly set people free. And to this day, when you go into the Bush Library, we are there. That's kind of cool.
So this drug epidemic, we all look at it and we don't know what to do. We see, oh my gosh, what's happened? I think most of us are thinking, what's happening? What is happening? Why is it happening?
I think it's a lot of things. I know the opioid crisis started from, an organization that said that opioids wasn't addicted. We know that now they are. I think that a lot of people kind of fell into the addiction when it comes to opioids. But then addiction, period, I know some people call it a disease, and I know once the brain is hijacked by addiction, the chemicals change in your body, and hence a disease. I get that, but I also feel it is a dis-ease of there's something else. With me, it was a root cause. That was because that little girl, who was molested, who continually, was raped again and again, had a lot of, sexual trauma even in the military. And so my way of, coping was escaping and using drugs. So I think there's so many people that are going through different challenges, and they look at, substance abuse as a way out, of a way to numb the pain.
I can just numb the pain.
If I could just numb the pain for a minute, and before you know it, it's a life that's out of control. So I think that once we really tell people, look, let's talk about what happened, what made you make these decisions, and how can we help you better make good coping skills. People, places, and things have to change. And to let them know that God has a plan and purpose for their life. Because, Beth, you would be surprised at people that we talk to and we ask them, so what's your plan? What purpose do you think God has for your life? And they go, I have no idea.
They've never even thought about it.
No.
Because they don't feel worthy
Right.
that they should have that thought.
Right. And God, He sent His Son for all of us. And so we think it's vital that when we are talking to people that we're like, what is it that God called you to do? Well, I don't know. Well, what do you like to do? Or what about the world you don't like? And what do you think you could do to change it? And they go, you know what? I'm like, that might be your purpose. And so, it's just a joy to see people walk in their purpose. And that's why we push hope and purpose every day. Because we know that once a person finds their purpose, it will give them the reason to live. Hence, preventing suicide. Because people know I have a purpose. I'm not a mistake. Even though I messed up, God still has a plan and, purpose for my life. And just really encouraging to them and then reminding them of who they are in Him.
Are you so excited to know there's people like Tanja Miles out there helping people who are really struggling? She is effective because she has walked the path many people find themselves walking. To get involved in her ministry and to help her continue doing what she's doing and do it even bigger and better, go to lifeonpurpose.tv. Let's get behind Tanja and change the world. I like to say I come from a great family that had great trouble. My dad, I believe, was a man of great purpose. But he began somewhere along the way to lose the patience that it requires to pursue purpose. I am so excited to invite you to help launch my new book. Today is a special day. This is Beth Townsend. If you will go to my website, bethtownsend.com, we have a special deal for you. If you will order my book for $14.95, I will autograph it and ship it out at no additional charge. That will save you about $5. So that helps so much as we launch the book.